So guys, we are live now. I think we're right on time. So we let Gary in when he's backstage available. So yeah, great. Happy Friday, first of all. I think Gary's here.
Friday.
Happy Friday, all. Hi, Jean. Hi, Gary. Hi, Karthik. How have you been so far for all of you? How many calls before this?
Many.
Right. So we're going to take it easy on this
it's early in the morning here.
Beg your pardon, Gary?
It's early in the morning. I'm in Key West in the very south of Florida. It's early in the well, not too early actually. It's only 8 o'clock.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
So we have Gina dialing in for the I think it's the second time from Spain, but she's originally from Colombia.
Yes.
Right. Great. And we have our usual Karthik from Idea Factory and Gary. So yes, we're going to talk about LATAM. I think on this episode, we're going to talk about the countries within the Latin America, the South America we have, because last episode, we just overall touched base on the overall Latin America market. Let's just dig deep. We have somebody from the region as well, Gina herself. So it's going to be very interesting. So my name is, again, just for the sake of introduction, my name is Sunny Mohanty. I'm the regional director of LaToken. LaToken hosts, obviously, VCTV, which is a venture capital TV, a platform where we connect investors like yourselves and obviously the startups. We have AMA sessions, Ask Me Anything for the startup, so they can share anything about their project for 1 good hour. Then we have Crypto Fridays as well. And we have these kind of sessions, pitching sessions, besides these informative sessions from the investor community. So yes, so that's about VCTV. That's about me. Let's take a quick round of introduction from all our speakers today before we start the questions. Gina, over to you. Introduction and background, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny, for the invitation. This is my second time here live with you. So I'm originally from Colombia. I'm a lawyer in Colombia, and I'm also an angel investor. I have my company based here in Spain, in which we help investors and entrepreneurs enter to new markets. So we support that in Europe, in Latin America, and in the US. That is basically what we do.
Wow, interesting. And welcome back to VCTV. I'm sure you're going to be a regular speaker going forward, like the VCTV, part of the VCTV family. Thank you, Gina. Karthik, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you so much. It's one more Friday, just about 4 in the afternoon, holiday for me. So yeah, I represent Middle East. I am a representative of a couple of family offices based in the UK, a venture fund based in Saudi, and an angel investor myself, and active in the fintech, health tech, and edutech space. In terms of my involvement in Latin America, I've done a few businesses in Latin America, no active investments at the moment.
Right, no worries. Thank you, Karthik. With your experience, we'll like to know more about the country itself, the region itself. Gary.
Hi.
Hey,
Gary.
Gary.
Good to see everybody today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 startups, involved in 2 unicorns on the original management team of Click Software, sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, a premier AI HR tech company that I started in Silicon Valley 5 years ago. I am the CEO, president, co-founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Silicon Valley. We curate companies from all over the world, and we do have companies in Latin America. Actually working with X-Coop right now in Argentina, have been to Chile, Startup Chile, and spoken at their events, their AI events in Startup Chile. So working with companies all over Brazil, etc. We're curating them right now. So we see an incredible opportunity with a population of over 600 million.
Wow. Great. And Gary is doing road shows in Africa right now. And then he's got Dubai and India coming up. And hopefully LATAM maybe. So great. All set with introductions from our speaker. Talking about Latin America, we have many countries. Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, Peru, Ecuador. So let's just start with what's the startup ecosystem looks like in the region itself, like in the whole region? Then we can go into individual countries and discuss which is more developed and what are the challenges faced by each of these countries. Maybe Gina, would you like to start first?
Well, thank you very much. Like as you mentioned, the region is very extensive. So the economies in different countries are very way much from each other. So on the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the leader, I should point, maybe it started with Chile. They started doing like a very interesting startup ecosystem. And also Mexico, they started doing like the first business angel communities. And I remember when I started my path as an entrepreneur in Colombia, all the business angels and venture capital came from Mexico. They already have like a developed ecosystem. And after that, and after our actual president in Colombia, that he worked at the World Inter-American Bank, he's an IP lawyer in Colombia. He did a very extensive research on the capital we had in Colombia, and it was based on the intellectual property based sectors like film industry, software, like all the intangible assets. So he started supporting this and attracting investors like from Japan and from worldwide. So I will say there are three key actors that are Chile, Mexico, and now Colombia.
Interesting. Chile, Colombia. I'm just looking at the map at the same time. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Gina. Karthik, your insights, your opening remarks.
So, basis my business experience in this part of the world, I think the geography needs to be divided very logically. While the engine or the driver of the geography necessarily is Brazil and Argentina, considering the volume and the economic, the GDP power that it brings to the table, what comes in as a very strong natural resource belt is the Central American and the North LATAM region, which is very strong mineral and natural resource base, which brings in the dollars that needs to fuel the geography. Obviously, some dollars are clean, some dollars are not so very clean. And then is the innovation center, as Gina rightly pointed out, a lot of innovations happening in Mexico, primarily fueled by the dollars. A lot of innovations happening in Argentina, a lot of it's in Chile, not much that I've heard, but Uruguay primarily. So the growth engines being driven from these geographies, considering the changing banking regulations and a very strong connect with mainland North America as well as with Europe in terms of business, fintech is one of the strongest drivers in terms of change, primarily owing to a lot of compliance requirements. Compliance has become very strong and mandatory in terms of routing of dollars, and hence fintech is becoming a very strong. Change and political stability in the region is pumping in a lot of dollars into the edutech and the health tech. Healthcare in terms of insurance sectors or healthcare in terms of secondary healthcare being made available is becoming a prime driver, with a lot of investments coming in from North America as well as from Europe into the health tech sector. So these two sectors, again, a sector that I am very heavily invested in the geographies across the world is the travel, retail and duty-free sector. With Brazil opening up, with Argentina opening up in terms of its travel retail, I think duty-free is one of the most impacted sectors, and large players in duty have already established their presence. So I think there is a lot of dollar going in. What the world is waiting in is for the multiplier to come in and start seeing it back.
Interesting. With the retail opening up, which is very interesting. Thank you, Karthik, for adding that on. So Gary, your opening remarks, please.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, AI is the new electricity. Intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities aren't. So what I'm seeing, and we've been curating companies down in LATAM for the last year, and even before that, I'd been going down, but really over the last year during COVID, because we see the opportunity to be able to curate those companies and find those companies. So what we have today, look at, as Gina was saying about Startup Chile, I mean, it's incredible that actually, to be honest, when I was down there, I felt like I was back in California, because it feels like that. Yes. The only thing is, I gotta say this. I was asked to come down and speak about artificial intelligence. I didn't realize how far it is, because I didn't pay attention. I thought it was like I would fly to Dallas and it would be like a 3-hour trip. It is on the other side of the equator.
Yes.
I could not believe it's unbelievable, but it's one of the most beautiful places in a vibrant startup community. So the elements of what's happening, look at where we are with COVID today. And these barriers on one sense have been set up about physical travel, on the other sense about opportunities. So what we look at is we look at the opportunity in Latin America today is really it's going to blossom over the next year and a half. You're going to see incredible opportunities come out. I'm talking to some of the greatest, most exciting AI companies that I've seen in a long time, but I'm finding these kind of opportunities in Africa too. I mean, like diamonds in the rough. So what we see, the next step of this is how to go global. How do you go from Latin America over to the global marketplace, which is a challenge for every country and every company. So we're Silicon Valley based. We're a venture studio. We curate those companies, taking them up to the next level. So that's really where we're seeing. But it's almost like a volcano on a positive side that's getting ready to erupt, and those opportunities are going to come out very, very quickly. In fact, the world's going to see an explosion in a positive way of startups coming out that are ready to, go to the next level.
Fantastic insights. Thank you, Gary, for that as well. So, Gina, coming over to you. So you invest. Obviously, you know the region very well. You also connect Europe, right, with
Yes.
the Latin American market.
Yes.
So how do you see these the markets are different? What are the challenges? We're going to talk about because you obviously do not have experience probably in India, so I'm going to ask about with Karthik. But how would you compare when you with the investment dollars flowing into as you are in Spain as opposed to maybe Chile? I mean, Gary just say that AI is very advanced.
Yes.
So does in Africa. So if you could share your perspective from different regions.
Well, I do. I am a complete believer that the Latin American region is full of talented people and hardworking people. Like due to the whole way the region was built, like resilience, hard work, passion. It's in the DNA. So that is a very positive attribute to be an entrepreneur: the passion, the resilience, etc. People in Latin America, talented people, are not used to wait for the government to help. Here in Europe, you find a lot of support, like for the ecosystem and for the entrepreneurs. Here in Spain, for example, you have a lot of initiatives from the government to help entrepreneurs go global, or at least to go to the market. So I think there is a very important space to help these entrepreneurs in Latin America to go onto different markets. This is our bet in my company. We help them to their most traditional markets. Latin America have always had like the first commercial ally is the US for years and years, and Europe. So those are the two markets to all the sectors. Traditional sectors, and of course that can be compared to the startup world. And also something very important is the traditional big economy in Latin America was the Mercosur, that it was Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. But in 2016, it came to an agreement, the Pacific Alliance, that it's Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Chile. So it is a stronger force, and it's double the investment of Mercosur. So things are changing in the region, like Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Peru are gaining their spot on the region and their leadership in the region. So I do agree that something in the region, like, there's a big unicorn coming from Colombia, that's Rappi. SoftBank entered Colombia. So there's a lot of things happening, and for the Colombian government, it's been a bet. They want to become the Silicon Valley of Latin America. So let's see Yes. So let's see how things move there.
So, did I miss the point when you say the government in Europe is always supporting the startups to go global? So, is it the same sort of situation in Colombia, in Latin America?
Well, it's not the same support, of course, because the resources, public resources here are different. Europe is supported by the European Commission. There's always grants and public funding. That is not that way in Latin America, because we still have some primary needs. There are populations where there's no water, so you have to understand the context and the economy, the difference and priorities for government. So there's money to basic needs that already in Europe everyone has their basic needs covered. So there's more money here to support the ecosystem and to develop the ecosystem. But there is a lot of private initiatives and NGOs and different companies wanting to help these entrepreneurs go global. That is, like, I do believe that's the way to go, and there's where the opportunity arises.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those insights with us. So, Karthik, Africa, various countries, then you go Latin America, then you go India. So between all the emerging markets, it's totally different. I mean, when we talk about the countries, India is states, obviously, and the countries. So what do you see, like, which is more advanced among all the emerging, sort of regions that we have, and how Latin America is placed?
It would be unfair to compare Latin America as a continent, Africa as two continents, and India as a subcontinent with each other. But if you look at in terms of GDP, if you look at indicators, obviously Brazil, South Africa, India, they lead the charge. But in terms of innovation centers, while India and some of the South African nations or some of the South African geographies and some Latin American geographies would score more or less similar to each other. But in terms of propensity to spend, I would look at it a little differently. What happened in India in around first half of 2010 to 2000, which is 2000 to 2005, is where the entire technology boom started, and that is what opened up the doors for a lot of global economies to understand the power of 1.4 billion people living in the country or living in the continent. What Africa is going through now, maybe Latin America saw that coming in earlier, primarily due to the links with Europe and links with North America. However, I would agree with what Gina said. The way the government in India has not been very supportive of the startup sector. Government in LATAM also has not been very progressive and supportive, but the VCs took over that role in early 2000 in India. And today it's an artificially bred hybrid ecosystem in India, which is funded, fueled, and built by VCs to a level where large corporate houses have started seeing the value and seeing the growth and have taken over the responsibility from the government. Maybe that's where Latin America would move in a few years' time, seeing that venture funds and foreign dollars have started coming in. Large real economy businesses in Brazil, in Mexico, in Argentina, in Uruguay would start pumping in the dollars to create startup systems. Technology, information technology, energy, healthcare, edutech, real infrastructure. A lot of startups have started growing in. If you see the per capita startup ecosystem in terms of healthcare, in terms of energy, it's probably the highest in the world, coming in from southern half of Latin America compared to any other part of the world. So I think there is a reason, there is an opportunity. Comparing the two geographies or three geographies would be a little unfair, because there is hardly any balance of power in any of those indicators. So, yeah.
All right. Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you for your insights, Karthik. I see a message in front of me. Sorry, Gary. What are your thoughts because you are very active in all the emerging markets right now, especially now you're currently touring Africa. So how would you compare? I mean, obviously,
I'm not in Africa right now. Right now, I'm in Florida, but my partner's in Lagos, Nigeria.
I mean, we're virtually touring. Like, we are virtually.
He's down there going to the dinners, doing all this stuff, but I'm here. But the thing is, look at it, Sonny. This is really given in the COVID situation. It's really given us an opportunity to be able to go around the world virtually and to be able to talk to companies and investors like we've never been able to do before. And when I started the first accelerator in Russia many years ago now, before there was an ecosystem, I could see the changes taking place very quickly. I remember Bob Dorff talking to me, who wrote the book, The Startup Owner's Manual, the whole customer development movement with Steve Blank, talk about Latin America and the incredible opportunities there. So what we're seeing right now is really the maturation of those opportunities, getting to scale and getting ready to go global. And if we look at some of the companies, the unicorns that are there, I mean, it's extremely impressive. But the same challenges that happen to most companies in most countries, they're there. So you look at the first stage is acceleration, the second stage is regional dominance, and the third stage is going global. Each one of those stages has obstacles. What we need to do, have obstacles. What we need to do is to come up with systems to be able to overcome those obstacles. And one of the things is having the contacts in a place like Silicon Valley, where half the money in the world is still located. So if I want to raise money from China, from Japan, from Russia, from Israel, from Europe, from Spain, I mean, I go to Silicon Valley because it's like fishing. I go where there are a lot of fish in the pond. So the key is getting them out. The other thing is valuations. The valuations are just a lot higher. So if we look at, from my perspective, if we look at no matter where the company is, you know, if we use that as a port to the rest of the world, we can dramatically enhance the valuations, especially if they're AI or quantum companies.
We have a very active viewer. Thank you, Gary. Sorry, Gary. Are you done, or do you want to add something?
Yeah, no. I just, you know, this is an incredible time, Sonny. I got to tell you, it's like we've got our pulse on it, so we've got our hand on the pulse all over the planet. And Latin America, I'm seeing so many opportunities. And thank you, VCTV, because a lot of them are coming through, you know, this network and writing and that kind of thing. But they're coming out of the woodwork, and they are really incredible.
That's the whole objective and goal of VCTV, is to connect the entrepreneurs from all over the world and to bring them into one screen like this. So we have a very good question from somebody probably in Latin America, because he seems to know what happens with businesses locally. Young entrepreneurs have a hard time getting funding to even promote business locally. So that's a very good point. Somebody has made a statement, report Avila, I guess he's from the region. So he knows it's even difficult to promote the business locally. How can they even think of going global? Public resources are limited in Latin and Central America. I don't know what does that mean. But anyways, yeah, Gina, please.
Well, that is completely true. Like, it's very difficult to fund your starting company in Latin America. Like, there's no family, friends, and fools supporting your creative idea, because people are frightened of risk, because of course everyone works very hard to earn their money, and people are very cautious on investing and having risk. So one thing is that. Second, banks are very, very traditional, and the interests are very, very high. Interest in Colombia is higher than in Spain.
Wow.
For example, yes. So it's easier, like for me as an entrepreneur, it was crazy because it was easier for me to obtain credit here in Spain, that I was starting my new life as an entrepreneur and immigrant here, than in Colombia after 12 years of career as a lawyer, with contacts, so it's complicated. It's not easy. So an entrepreneur first have to show sales and to show track record to be able to obtain funding from a bank or from a traditional funding, and then do all the process of scaling. In my company, I had the opportunity to do all the funding sources, like from sponsorships to partnerships to friend to all the process. But I think that's a part of being an entrepreneur. You have to try and to do all the steps to get to Silicon Valley. You can't pretend to have just an idea and just pitch it and you will obtain $10 million. That happens, but it's not the normal thing to happen. Just that happens to very few people in the world. And sometimes you have to do the hard work and to do all the path to get there. and you will get there, but you have to work hard and to pay what the price of being an entrepreneur.
Thank you, Gina. If I understand correctly, so the risk appetite is not there in the region, and also lack of support of public resources, which I think is a government support.
Yes.
So how do you think these startups do not have the support from, like you said, the credit, you are a citizen of Colombia, right? You're a Colombian citizen.
Yes, and I started my companies in Colombia. I know very well how difficult it is to scale in Colombia and to grow.
And you didn't even get credit approved for your business.
It's very complicated to get a credit approved if you have a new business, and to obtain the grants, it's easier as well. I compare. It was easier for me as a non-European immigrant to obtain funding from the European Commission than obtain funding in Colombia as a Colombian citizen.
Wow.
Why? Because the ecosystems are highly different. For example, in Colombia, if you want to obtain a grant, there's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of steps and a lot of due diligence and a lot of barriers, because of course there's some corruption, blah blah blah. So it is there's more barriers, I think, than in Europe, definitely. So it's more about generating sales and to obtain good clients and to generate your own cash flow. And when you develop your cash flow, then you will be able to go to a bank and to show your numbers and obtain a credit.
Wow. Good to know. Thank you, Gina. Great to have you on this panel today. Thank you so much. Gary, how can you help these local businesses go global when they do not have much support in their own country? And how can you penetrate, like coming from a Silicon Valley? I mean, how can you enter the markets? How easy or how difficult it is for the foreign investments to come in?
Well, I mean, the situation is so, just a story like Gina. I grew up in a 500-person village in Pennsylvania. And when I did my first startup, 21 years old, I didn't have money either. And so, I told my dad, I said, hey, Dad, I'm out of graduate school. I want to start a company. He said, what's wrong with you, son? You need to be a professor. And I said, well, and in reality, what I wanted to do is go to medical school. So I came out and as a clinical psychologist, undergraduate degree in business and psychology. But I came out and I said, geez, I really want to be, go to medical school. But then I got involved in computer sales. So Apple. So I was involved with some of the first Apple products. And what happened is, really a miracle, because I didn't understand about venture funding. I had no clue. What I understood is that you go to a bank and get a loan, and you go in, get a loan. They base it upon what your income is. So I went in, got a loan. My first company was construction tech. I built 27 houses, and I didn't know what venture cap. In fact, I'll never forget my fifth house that I built, and these were houses that were like 800, anywhere from 300 to 800 square meters, pretty big houses. And what happened is the banker said to me, we really like what you're doing, but we want to have some equity in the project. I said, why would you want equity? I'm the one carrying the loan. It's like, it made no sense to me. And so, but what happened is I ended up using credit cards. I used all kinds of different ways to be able to get the funding. The point is, one of the resilience and the flexibility and what we look for in entrepreneurs is their ability to secure funds. It's not easy. And you're right. A lot of people have great ideas, but it's like having a Ferrari without an engine. And so the situation, can they put an engine in it? And so what we do is when we look for those companies, I look for AI and quantum companies that really have the capability, an unsupervised, semi-supervised AI, things like semantics, clusterization, ontology, all kind of ways that are going to make our life a lot easier, from supply chain and transparency in the supply chain to med tech and drug discovery, being able to look at develop products very, very quickly so you don't have to use bench time. I mean, you really name it. HR, work tech, Eva, my company. So there's a lot of different ways. We're looking for those resilient entrepreneurs. And by the way, there's two pieces to it. One is the companies that want to go global, and the other things is having people like yourself, Kartik, Gina, myself, people that have been working in different locations around the world that have a different accepting cultural mentality, because some people get really locked into their culture and they can't get out of it. And it's really difficult for them to go global. So we're looking for that as a baseline. So what we look for is I want to make sure they have product market fit. By that, I mean, I want to make sure that they have some revenue coming in to prove that it works in their market, to prove that their team can work together, to prove that they understand how to run a company. Then it becomes really interesting. So if they have those kind of pieces in place, we take a look at them seriously. And then, do they have the capability culturally to go global or not? Can we help them? So we have a two-step process. One is we put them into GSD Labs. GSD Labs is really a pre-global accelerator. I have companies from all over the world in there today, a couple of from Africa, Germany, US, I mean, literally you name it, Indonesia. That is really to bring top mentors from the world in to be able to, the mentors are also top VCs working for places like SoftBank, Andreessen Horowitz, NEA, I mean, you name it. The top family offices, Schweitzer family. And so what we do is we have them look at these startups, evaluate the startups, but it's at the same time, they're also investors. There are about 100 of them in total. And so as they're looking at, it's like a Trojan horse, they're telling them what they want to see because they're also an investor. And so they're really cultivating what they want. And it really works. It's amazing how that system works. So that's how we do it. We put them through this 10-week process, help them. Of course, they have to have global decks. Their language skills may not be up to par. They don't have the contact. It's really important to have the contacts all over the world, especially with family offices, right? That's very closed a network that's out there that really controls a whole lot of the, most of the 90%, 99% of the capital, I would say, not even 90. So it's very, very interesting. And what we want to do is, the starting point is how adaptable and flexible. The other thing is, how do they view failure? If they view failure, I don't know, in Russian, maybe, maybe not, I hope, it's not interesting. Do they really have the passion and desire to be able to go forward? So those soft skills, the hard skills that having some revenue, are they in AI or quantum from our standpoint? Fintech, a lot of fintech companies we see in Latin America. And then how do they stack up against the competition worldwide, right? Are they in the top 5, or where do they fit? And that's it. And it's about moving quickly. As we say at GSD, I named my company GSD for a reason. It's Get Shit Done Venture Studios. So can they move quickly with it? That's it. It's a simple model. This is not something, the problem is we talk too much, Sonny, about things in our lives and we don't do it. The difference between people that have been successful and people not is if people have been successful, just do it. They don't dwell, I don't know, maybe I should do this. Should I buy that Ferrari? Should I do this? Just do it. It's about visualize it, set the path and do it.
Yes. And I just think that that's a difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur. A businessman is a lot about planning and planning and planning and projections and projections. And the entrepreneur has a vision and a plan and executes. That's it.
The first MBA program was at Harvard University. It was intended to teach entrepreneurs, right, businessmen, how to be managers, not how to take risks. In fact, it's diametrically opposed. Risk is not something you should do, right? Because you got to control your risk, et cetera. But entrepreneurs, that's what we do every day.
Exactly.
It's about risk. How can we move forward in life?
Yes. Like for in my case, it's tricky because I have one part of my mind is an entrepreneur going forward to risk, but the other one is the lawyer saying it's too risky, it's too risky. So it's a constant battle from the right and the left hemisphere.
Yeah, maybe we're all about schizophrenia a little bit. That's or hysterical neurosis, but that's part of being an entrepreneur. right?
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, think about it. It's like you set your goal and you achieve them. I did a TED talk about this called POV a few years ago, TEDx, and it's just that's it. And you know what? Another thing, I had Andrew Straczynski, who's a right-hand man of Rupert Murdoch. I had the pleasure, I was humbled to be asked to go out to dinner with him and the brother of the founder of Google, Carl Page. And so we went out to dinner a couple of years ago. And here's a guy, it's a right-hand man of one of the richest guys in the world. And he said, I've studied 3,000 entrepreneurs. And I had a couple of glasses of wine. I was feeling a little light in the loafers at the time. I was really a little plastered. And I said, tell me, what's one thing that the most successful entrepreneurs you've studied have in common? And he said, amnesia. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, they never, ever dwell in the past. They only look for today and going forward. He said, I see it across the board. And I can tell you with my billionaire partners, I'm fortunate to have some friends that are high net worth. They're the same. They never, ever talk about the past, except in context.
Right. Wow. I'm loving this panel today for a Friday. Amazing, amazing insights coming out. So Karthik, coming to you, I just want to know what are your 2 cents in getting one of the, so much talent is there within the region. How can is tap into that talent as per you, and how to get that talent global? I mean, obviously,
when I hear what Gina has to say, for me, it's a typical deja vu sentiment of what happened to the subcontinent 20, 25 years ago. While there was a lot of talent, there was a huge consumerism. Indians' money or subcontinent money was considered pariah, primarily because people were not sure of the source of the money and the end use of the money. And that's exactly how the world, apart from the US and the world apart from Western Europe, still considers Latin America. Sitting in the Middle East today, when I have to take an investment decision in Latin America, my lawyers give me a flag immediately saying that we need to have 24 different clearance documents for the source of fund and investment into the region. The moment I need to put anything more than $1 million in Latin America, even in my own business in Brazil, I need to go through a 7-month documentation procedure, which makes the entire geography extremely unviable for me. So even though I am a VC that is willing to invest, if I do not go through the US route or through the Spain and some of the other European nation routes, my money doesn't reach the geography. So round tripping, what Cayman Island, British Virgin Islands did to subcontinent in 1990s and 2000 is what it goes through. So once there is a regulatory framework which clears out the entire dollar trade route and makes the entire dollar transparent, irrespective of the geography it goes in, there'll be that many more VCs that would be willing and keen to interest. Think about me from my perspective. I sit 12 hours away from a geography. I have to go through 9 different airports to reach the geography where I need to invest my dollars into. I need to have very clear visibility of where is my money going, where is my money getting utilized, how strong the bureaucracy is to give me a de-risked dollar investment. If my dollar is de-risked, if there is transparency, if there is a jurisdiction that supports a venture capitalist. Tomorrow, if the jurisdiction seizes my dollars that have been invested and doesn't let me repatriate money which I have built into my foreign office, that money is lost in the geography. I wouldn't want to round trip the dollar from Bogota to Ecuador, Ecuador to Brazil, Brazil to Uruguay, and then keep rotating the money. At some point, I want my money back in the business. So that's the first level. Second, there are multiple forums being built for venture capitalists, but still, what happened in terms of consumerism is what needs to happen in this part of the world. Businesses are still very lopsided, and Gina would know this far better than anybody else. There are large business families that control and run the GDP of the geographies. Small businesses come, they are offshoots, but then there is no support, and the large businesses, as colonial masters, have destroyed small businesses. Until unless protectionist policies are built for small businesses with tax treaties, with failure success, leasing or renting of equipment, infrastructure and dollars, and jurisdictions that allow for foreign investors to own, participate and create what we call as an FDI, investment in a geography, is allowed, only then venture ecosystem will start growing. You might have beautiful ideas, you would have some of the smartest brains in the region, but until unless they are incubated by business leaders like Gary, who create an ecosystem, who feel safe to get into the region, invest and come out seamlessly, the ecosystem will not grow. This is exactly what happened in India between 1995 to 2005. 10 years of change has helped billions of dollars come into the region, and is still not sufficient enough for the region to grow. So while Latin America boasts of a huge consumerism, it also needs to be powered by reforms. It needs to be powered by treaties. It needs to be powered by acceptance. And post that, people like us would go and start investing in the geography. That's my belief.
I agree.
Right. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, next would be I would like to know which sectors are more lucrative in the region. Like, if as an investor, if Karthik is looking to invest, and obviously we know which sectors he invests into. So Gina, which sectors do you think are doing great, and why should an investor should be investing into those sectors?
Well, I consider the edutech, legal tech. There's a lot of legal tech going on in Argentina, especially. I've seen some of it, and health tech, of course. Due to COVID times, I think it's a great opportunity investing in health tech. I will mention these three sectors, and everything that has to do with artificial intelligence, e-commerce. A lot of e-commerce, brand expansion, a lot of designers from Latin America putting all their brands into e-commerce in order to get to interesting markets such as Middle East and Europe. That is really interesting because, as I mentioned, there's a lot of talent. Like in the fashion industry, creative industry, there's a huge talent, and I think through these platforms, e-commerce platforms is the easiest, cheapest, and most efficient way to go global.
Right. E-commerce, I think Karthik also mentioned before, health sector as well. So Gary, would you like to share some of the investments that or some collaborations that you've made with Chile or any other?
Yeah, absolutely. I can go down through it. So what we're seeing is, really a mixed bag, but a lot of it's around fintech from my perspective. So companies like Nubank, companies like Uala, an Argentinian company, Xcoop, which is one of our portfolio companies. I'm sure Gina knows Zenobi, the Colombian fintech company. So those kind of companies, fintech is really interesting. I've seen companies like Biosolvit that works on sustainability usage for cleanup, so using natural products like coconut husk, that kind of thing. So, and there is a problem. I mean, there's a problem around the world. In Africa, we got a problem with payments, right? It was hard for my partner, who was just there, to get payments. At the same time, the same kind of problems exist down in Latin America. How do we do cross-border payments? How do we make it easy? A lot of people send their money back to their relatives from all over the world. And how do we get that money back and do it in a cheap fashion compared to a Western Union? So those kind of companies like Xcoop, which is one of ours, are really solving some of those incredible issues. In terms of the future, I mean, it's there's a lot of, and again, when I say AI, we're using the same kind of transportable AI models across multiple vertical markets. It's a matter of the training set. So what we're seeing, beginning for me, like it with my experience in Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Israel, you start to see some of these technologies come out and then start to blossom. And as they start to blossom, they start to create a lot of demand because people want to follow suit with them. So you'll start to see it across multiple markets. What we're going to see is a supply chain that's going to start to come out because the transparency in the supply chain across borders, that could be applied globally. FinTech solutions to be able to really optimize payment processing. We're going to start to see more and more of that come in. We're going to see a lot more blockchain companies oriented in the blockchain and cryptocurrencies come out. We're going to see a huge, I mean, you have 647 million, I think that's the right statistic, people in Latin America. So we got to, people don't realize how big it is and how huge it is. Not till you fly to Chile from the U.S. do you understand how huge the place is. So those are, and that's really opportunities. But Karthik, I just want to say one point. One of the things that happens, these countries, Chile's done a really good job of marketing themselves. Really, really good job. And when you're down there, literally, when you're down in the Pacific, it feels like you're in California. So when I was down there, of course, you got the Andes, which are beautiful, but they've done a good job at accommodating folks. So what the governments can do is, there's one thing about money, but the other thing is to really make it accommodating. So what does that mean? Visas, right? I just talked to my friend John in Japan last night on my show, and they've made a visa structure for startups coming into Japan. So make the visas easy to get. Make it setting up the companies easy to get, like Singapore's done.
Yeah.
Here in Europe, also, there's a startup visa here in Spain, in the Netherlands, making it easy for international mobility to entrepreneurs. That is, like, regulation is a must. Regulation and access to capital.
Exactly. And then the right kind of it's not only the access to the capital, it's getting the right valuation. Because what happens is some of these countries, I just had a conversation yesterday with a Brazilian startup. And the valuation that they got, I did the math. They said, we're coming to Silicon Valley. So I literally did the math, right with them. I said, well, how many people are you going to have? 15. Okay, let's go down through and let's figure out, what are you talking about? Well, I need 6 business development folks. I need operations. Now it's a little less than 16. But operations. And I said, okay, well, let's go down through. And how much you planning on paying each of these people? So we went down and I said, now let me bring some of the Silicon Valley light to this situation, so we're all on the same page. It's not going to cost you $60,000 a year to get a business development person in the Valley. It's going to cost you 110 to 125 or more, plus double that for success. So you're going to have to come up with a model, and 28% on top of that for social taxes and insurance and that kind of thing. Then you're going to need D&O insurance to protect you as the founder of the company. You're going to have directors and officers liability insurance. And do you know how much that costs? No, $10,000 a year. So why do I need that? Because you don't want to have a problem. What happens if your product kills somebody or somebody gets hacked and they blame it on you? So I said, these are some of the costs that you have. So what we have to do is we have to make sure people don't have as irrational exuberance, that they understand what the reality is. Because what I don't want them to do is come into Silicon Valley and say, oh, I've got enough money. I'm going to raise money. It's going to last me 2 years or 18 months, and find out, 8 months or 6 months, they're going to have to raise another round, and it's going to distract them for another 6 months. So that's part of it, is breathing that reality into their souls so they understand. The other thing is, you can't just pop into a country. If I was to pop into Spain or Colombia, you got to have the contacts and connections. They have no idea who you are. You're not going to get money because they're not going to trust you, right? So you got to have that network, and that's why VCTV is so good, because you're developing the platform and the network to be able to connect the dots with people.
Yes.
People like Karthik. So, that's anyhow, as you're building the ecosystem up, you've got to have, I have 3 pieces. One is you need intergenerational teams, you need cultural diversity, and you need decentralization. And you have all 3 of those from intergenerational, because you need the credibility and experience. Multicultural, because if you look at to have different viewpoints, you build a much better product or service. And decentralized, because you want to take the cost advantages of wherever you can get the products built at the right price, at the right time, at the right level.
Thank you, Gary. To add on to what you just said, because of VCTV platform, because I think a lot of Latin American crypto blockchain projects have reached out to us for many things, and that's how I know how interesting. They bring a different perspective I have generally seen on this side of the world, So I'm seeing many interesting projects coming out of Brazil. We have got many projects on our exchange as well. Chile, and another project, 2 projects out of Chile, a mining project. So it gives me a different perspective. I think it's because of, as you rightly said, VCTV. These guys reached out to us, and we got to see great work coming out of the region, Gina. I think I should be connecting them with you if they need some legal services to have access to Europe or Spain. So
or the US, of course.
Sure, noted. Great. Karthik, besides edutech, let me recap: fintech, edutech, legal tech. e-commerce. Besides its businesses, Latin America is rich in resources as well, like, coffee, then you have all the minerals and everything. So, how do so what do you see happening in this? Because the reason I'm asking, because I see many projects in the traditional businesses like trading, mining, gold. They are also interested to have a sort of token and reach out to the world to tell their story. But how do you help these projects? In your perspective, how can somebody be helped, supported to go global?
So let me give you an insight. I sit on the world's largest oil producing belt. If you come
Yeah.
and ask any of the Arab countries that I'm going to invest into your oil producing business, they'll throw you out of the region. So you never get into a geography and try and be a part of their core ecosystem by getting into it. All you do is build flanks around it, which means you try and increase the efficiencies. You see a lot of German, American, Austrian, and Australian firms in the oil and energy sector in GCC, trying to tokenize, trying to commercialize, trying to improve the efficiency of the entire process,
Yeah.
hedging oil securities, building oil futures, building infrastructure for oil. And that's exactly what natural resources in Central America have already started going through. Hedging, risking, valuations, transactions, exchanges, financial instruments, negotiable instruments for the resources, helping the government to trade, secure, and build pools of these resources and value these resources is where a lot of financial instruments or financial businesses would start coming in. Getting into the real economy of mining, pooling, and conserving those resources, I don't think the governments would allow us. And I think we would get into a head on conflict with the local population in the region as well. But to build fair valuation and make that resource available is where in supply chain, in warehousing and logistics, in infrastructure, in tokenization, and in risk hedging, in creating financial tradable instruments, and in creating commodity exchanges and resources exchanges is where what happened in the Middle East and what happened in Australia in the mining space and coal space is what can be replicated in the entire Latin America or Central American space. That's at least how I would look at it.
Fantastic. Yes, absolutely. Great points, Karthik. Great points. Thank you so much for sharing those with your audience, because the entrepreneurs from Latin American, they are actually watching us. Thanks to Gina as well for sharing that on our Facebook profile. So we are wrapping up the show. It's a Friday. I won't be taking much time, but I have got two questions. Gina, Karthik, and Gary. Let's start with Gina. What's your best advice? I mean, obviously, before we wrap up, what's your one advice or the best advice for the entrepreneurs in the region to help to get the much needed funding, and also for the investors globally, how to have that access to those great minds, the good talent? Gina.
Okay, first, as an entrepreneur myself, my advice for Latin American entrepreneurs is to have very clear where you want to get or where do you want to be. Like, be very focused on what's your main goal, and build a strategy to get there. In the meantime, build a strong network, do strong partnerships. Like, people don't value or don't see sometimes the value of a good partnership.
Yeah.
When you're an entrepreneur, you always think you need money, but maybe you need a good partner or a good first client to do that money and to grow from there. So be very strategic, be open to advice, put your ego aside. The ego for the entrepreneur is very important because it drives them to pursuing their idea on the hard times. But you also have to have a healthy ego, to be flexible, and to be able to listen to people that have more experience than you. So I think that is key. Also very important to cultivate your leadership skills, to be able to do business internationally. Because like for example, in Colombia, leadership is very horizontal, like very vertical. Excuse me. And in Europe and in the US, things are more horizontal. So you have to take that out of your head. Like in Colombia, you're used to have the assistant of the assistant, the secretary of the secretary, and all
the hierarchy. The hierarchy.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're attached to that, and people are attached to that. And if you want to talk to the CEO of a company in Colombia, small SME, they think like they're like the owners of the world. And you send a letter, because this is my experience, to the president of the European Commission, and the guy answers back. You know, like, this is the dimension. So I think it's very, very important for Latin America to have your ego controlled. That is very important to do business worldwide, to know who you are, but to be open. The world is big. So there's big people who have done 20 more most important things than you, that you can do partnerships with and you can grow together. So not be like so selfish of, I did this, but if you do this technology and there's someone doing that technology in, I don't know, in Spain, why do you do a match up and grow stronger? You know, so to be street smart in a way, like strategic, and pursue your passion, like do the hard work, pitch everyone you know, start doing sales, prove your business model. If you're, I don't know, if you're trying to sell A, prove selling A, B, and C to first determine what is your business strategy should be, but doing sales. That will be my advice. Prove something. Prove you have something. Your company or you as an entrepreneur, but prove something.
I think you've just touched base in the cultural nuances of the country. I mean, you are Colombian national yourself. I think ego is, and the hierarchy that you spoke about is something that should be, is a barrier to your progress, or maybe to go global. I think to open up yourself to the rest of the world. I think that's a very good point coming from somebody from the region itself, because it's not easy otherwise to know as a foreigner, like sitting outside, to understand the people and the culture and the mentality. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing those. I mean, right on the point, Gina. Thanks for sharing that. Karthik, again, same question to you as well.
So change is a constant and a very time-consuming process. It doesn't happen overtime and overnight. Latin America, what started 7-8 years ago, and the change is already being felt. The very fact that today multiple forums across the world are sponsoring and discussing about investment opportunities in Latin America is a sign of time. However, what has started is something that needs to continue, and the startups need to go with the same vigor that they go anywhere else in the world. Innovation, differentiation, thought leadership, persistence, very strong execution plan, business acumen, result-oriented, and very, very strong people-oriented. That's exactly what they need to do. There'll still be roadblocks for a very long time. But then at some point, when it opens up, along with, and when government and people around the economy and infrastructure start noticing the change, they would automatically start investing. It obviously is a long process. But to make it short, they would need to start cultivating a lot of global partnerships. Incubators like Gary, for example, would be a great boon to a region. With close proximity, I'm sure with his efforts and his skill set, he can incubate a lot of them. People would learn a lot from his knowledge and his wisdom in this part of the world. The same way, reaching out to businesses beyond the Middle East, reaching out to businesses beyond North America, beyond Europe, is where they need to go and try and find out a level playing field. And that's an advice that goes to not only Latin American startups, but everywhere in the world.
Sure. Please check my message, Karthik. Thank you so much, Gary. Over to you.
I'm dancing and singing. Come on now. You never told me about this.
I have to say something.
Yes.
Something about that. I don't know, like, to measure this, but in each part of the world, you listen to music, there's a Latin singer. Like Maluma, J Balvin, Shakira, like, we have colonized the world with music.
Every human being on this planet is Indian. Every human being on this planet is Indian. Do you know that?
Shakira is my favorite. Hips don't lie.
Nice. She's from my hometown, from Barranquilla.
Colombia. Ah, fabulous. Yes. Good to know that.
Yes. Yeah. So we have conquered the world with music.
Absolutely.
And with happiness. So I think that's a good thing.
We're going to conquer the world with butter chicken. That's what we do.
Vindaloo, as Gary says, is the American version of chicken. Actually, that is Vindaloo, and in the UK, it's chicken tikka masala and everything else. The different
You're
flavors
making
of
me really hungry now. Now we need some garlic naan bread and we're all set. And
I wish
rice.
I wish I could just email you something. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm getting so hungry thinking about it.
Oh gosh, yeah, same here. So Gary, your closing remarks for the show, and let's do something before we wrap up for the week.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Karthik's going to sing another song for us. So,
Karthik, please. Now this is your time. Like all the
take some time and think
spotlight
about
is
it.
on you, Karthik. The spotlight is on you. You're going to say.
There are no spotlights. I'm going to do something only for Gina today. So,
Okay.
Here's the spotlight.
Ta-da!
The best song. Shakira. Yay.
Shakira, only for you, Gina.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So,
Yes.
these are great times. And one of the things Gina said is customer development is critically important. You need to get out to see if people are really wanting to buy the product and grab it out of your hands. And so the responsibility is not with salespeople that you hire, but the founders themselves to get out, test the model, make sure it works, make sure that the hypothesis is tested and it's valid. I know with my company, Eva, imagine walking down the street in Palo Alto with a billionaire, and he and I would go into cafes with our iPhones on a pod and our notebooks, and we would actually present to people. And it was unbelievable. We had vice presidents at Apple. It was really unbelievable. The brother of the founder of Google, actually, Carl Page, who I told you I had dinner with, actually presented to him our Google-like search for the personal cloud. And so using those resources, because what happens a lot of time is technology founders develop products that avoid. They never go out because part of it, they're more introverted. In many cases, they don't go out and test the product to see if people want it, and they overdevelop the products. They don't do MVPs. They spend so much time and money building it, the market may pass them by, or they overbuild it and it's not really accepted. So I would say that get to revenue as soon as you can, because revenue is really important. If you want to get funded, it proves your model works. Make sure that you stay upbeat and positive, because the last thing that people want to hear is that you hope something can be done, or maybe it'll work, or you think you might be able to do it. They don't want to. They have to, matter of fact, understand that you have the capability to execute and get it done as fast as possible. So that's it. People can reach me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm out there. I write a lot. So great to see you today. Great to see Gina, Karthik.
I will reach you, Gary, and I will reach you, Karen.
Yes, yeah, great to meet you.
Let's all connect together and find some synergies. We've already done that with other speakers on the VCTV. Gary and Karthik already have done it. So Gina, welcome to VCTV.
Thank you very much to be here. It's been wonderful.
For the information, for the entertainment. Thank you, Karthik, for that song. So guys, have a great weekend, and I'm going to catch you again on next week. Until then, stay safe, stay connected, and have a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.